All right, guys, welcome to the Monday NBA live stream. We got 8 games to talk about. So if you guys are new to the channel, how this is going to work is we'll take a look at what we know so far, review the Vegas odds, then I'll go team by team, talk about the players I like, and then we'll get to questions at the end. We do have a good amount of time here, so I don't have to rush like I have in previous slates. So yeah, let's go over what we know so far. So it started off, Kevin Durant is still out, out for another couple weeks. We had DeMar DeRozan ruled out for the Spurs. So that Detroit-San Antonio game is interesting. Nothing I feel like in that game I feel amazing about, but I think you're going to want some exposure to that one for sure, and we'll get to it. Nurkic returning soon. Ibaka questionable. This is pretty big news. If Serge Ibaka is in fact out, then I think Ivica Zubac becomes one of the better value plays at the slate at 4.6K, assuming he starts. So I'm going to have to keep an eye on that one. Winslow out. Doesn't do a ton. Memphis is basically fully healthy now. Let's see. Scrolling up a bit more. The Pacers-Nuggets game got moved back a little bit. I think I moved back an hour. Snowstorm, I think. Let's see. What else do we got? Westbrook, Beal, Matthews, Rui, and Alex Len once again starting. So Len played over 30 minutes last game. I have absolutely no idea how many minutes he's going to play tonight, as you guys probably know with the Wizards and their centers. They're just so hard to trust. But I will say Len is probably their best point per minute guy, and if he gets anywhere close to 30 minutes, he's going to become one of the better value plays of the slate. Wood doubtful, John Wall out. That is for Tuesday. So that's what we got so far, guys. Let's take a look at these Vegas odds. So we have Bucks and Wizards, a 243 over under. The Bucks are 8.5 point favorites. So last game these two teams played, Bradley Beal's out, and Washington actually kept it close with Westbrook. So it's like, I guess you can have a little more confidence that the Wizards can keep it close now they have Beal back as well. Kings and Hornets at 240 over under. The Hornets are 3.5 point favorites. I feel like I should like more on the Charlotte side, but I just don't, right? It's a fantastic matchup, one of the best possible spots, super high over under, and there's just nothing really that stands out to me on the Charlotte side. Knicks and Nets, a 223.5 over under. The Nets are 8.5 point favorites. Spurs, Pistons, like I said, this is a game that you're going to want some exposure to, even though, again, nothing really, you're not going to feel amazing about anything. 211.5 over under. The Spurs are 2 point favorites. Clippers and Mavs, a 228.5 over under. The Clippers are 2 point favorites. Grizzlies and Suns, the 227 over under. The Suns are 7 point favorites. And the Pacers, Nuggets, 224 over under. The Nuggets are 4.5 point favorites. Lakers, Warriors, the late night hammer here, 224.5 over under. Lakers are 2 point favorites. All right, so let's start off with Sacramento and Charlotte. So on the Sacramento side, I think De'Aaron Fox is a spend up. Will go overlooked in the slate, but I like him as a contrarian play, right? We have Giannis on the slate. We have Jokic, LeBron, Luka, Harden. Basically, all the studs are on this slate. So these kind of next tier down studs like De'Aaron Fox, Julius Randle, Sabonis, these guys are going to go overlooked. But hey, Fox has gone for 64, 56, and 51 fantasy points the last 3 games. And this is a great matchup, a 240 over under. I do like Fox. Again, I think he will be a lower owned, probably not a cash game play. Probably spend up for like a Giannis or a Jokic in cash games for sure, and then go value from there. But for tournaments, I do like De'Aaron Fox at that price point. Harrison Barnes, Buddy Hield, more secondary options at their respective prices. The other guy that stands out to me is Rashawn Holmes. If he can stay out of foul trouble, 31, 35, and 35 minutes the last 3 games. Again, it's been Marvin Bagley that has really lost time with Haliburton back. And we have no news yet on whether or not Haliburton is going to be on a minutes limit. So I'll probably pass unless we hear otherwise, unless we hear there's no minutes limit for him. So really it's Fox and it's Holmes for me. I do like both. And that is it for me on the Sacramento side. So on the Charlotte side, kind of hinted at that I feel like I should like more. But other than LaMelo Ball for tournaments, there's nothing I like. He'll play, with Devonta Graham now there, he's lost minutes, 29, 31 minutes in close games. I'm expecting around 30. Still can get there, right? He went for 50 fantasy points in 31 minutes. But I would say, again, more of a contrarian option. Gordon Hayward, don't love it. I mean, again, the matchup's solid, but he does take a backseat offensively with LaMelo Ball in the offense. Terry Rozier, too pricey. PJ Washington, too pricey. No on Monk. Zeller probably plays 20 to 25 minutes. Fine option, but I think there's better centers on the slate. Devontae Graham has kind of been eased back into it. If there's no limit on him, then I could see him being a viable value option. But yeah, as of right now, there's really not much I like on the Charlotte side. So that's it for Sacramento and Charlotte. All right, so let's move on to Milwaukee and Washington. So on the Milwaukee side, Giannis Antetokounmpo. I think for a cash game setting, I don't know how you get away from him. He went for 70 last game. I'm expecting pretty similar from a fantasy point output as long as his game does stay competitive. So love Giannis at the top. The one risk here is just the blowout. Now, again, I will mention Washington, without Brad Beal, kept it close last game. That doesn't mean they're going to keep it close again, but you should have a little more confidence that they can. So, Giannis at the top, I think, is one of the best spin-ups. Middleton, no thank you. I do kind of like Drew Holiday at 6'5". I don't think he's going to be super popular on the slate, but hey, he played 32 minutes. They eased him back into it. 18, 23, 25, then 32 that last game. He did not shoot the ball well. Shot 6 of 18. Still won for 38 fancy points. If he gets like 35 minutes tonight in this matchup, I think he's a sneaky good play in the mid-range that people will overlook. And then Bobby Portis, just for tournaments, right? Minutes fluctuate with him. He played 22 that last game. There's no guarantee he plays those minutes again. So a volatile option, but again, a good tournament play. On the Washington side, it's Beal and Westbrook at the top. Neither are priorities at their respective prices. I still, even though Westbrook is over $1,000 more expensive than Beal, I would still prefer him. Again, he went for 80 last game. Don't expect 80 with Beal in this lineup. I do not think he's an optimal spin up. So again, more of a contrarian spin up in my opinion, but still viable. Beal in play as well. But again, I think both are contrarian options on this slate. And then the last guy I mentioned is Alex Len, 3.7K. So he played 33 minutes last game. Actually played decently well. He's starting tonight. He could literally play 2 minutes tonight, and I would not be surprised. So just be careful here. He's a good point per minute guy. If I knew Alex Len was going to play 33 minutes again tonight, like he did the previous game, and if I was building 150 lineups, I would lock him into every single lineup. 150 out of 150 lineups, I would play Alex Len if I knew he was going to play 33 minutes again. But hey, like I said, the minutes are just, we have no idea. No, absolutely no idea. Like I said, we've seen multiple games, I think 2 or 3 games already this season where he has started, played poorly, and then literally played like 5 minutes total, did not play in the second half. So that is always the risk with Alex Len. I'll mention this with some of the San Antonio guys, probably some of the Detroit guys. But he's a guy that does have upside, a lot of upside. Like I said, if things go right for Alex Len and the minutes are there again, I think he could crush that salary. Moving on to New York and Brooklyn. So Julius Randle at the top at 9.8K. Like I said with De'Aaron Fox, will go overlooked. We got Giannis against Washington. We got Jokic on the slate. We got Harden, Luka. These guys will fly under the radar. Guys like Randle, Fox. We'll talk about Sabonis. But I do like Julius Randle a lot here. He's going to play close to 40 minutes. This is one of the best possible matchups against the Brooklyn Nets. I do like him as a contrarian play for sure at the top. RJ Barrett, no thank you. Emmanuel quickly, assuming that he starts at point guard, I think is one of the best plays in the mid-range. A guy that is very aggressive in the offensive end, has a good amount of upside, and like I said, Brooklyn plays very fast. So would really, really like Emmanuel quickly if he does start. Again, Alfred Payton doubtful, Derrick Rose out, Austin Rivers out. They started Ntilikina at point guard last game, but then quickly came in and started the second half. If Ntilikina starts, slight downgrade to quickly, but I still think he'll play good minutes. And lastly, I'll mention Taj Gibson if you need a pump play. Has played 26 and 24 minutes last couple games. I know those were both blowouts, but I think we probably get around 20 in a close game from him. So, yeah, you can use him as a value option if you need someone super cheap. Moving on to the Brooklyn Nets. So Harden, Kyrie, are either of these guys priorities for me on this slate? No, but I think they're both good contrarian options. The reason I say the more contrarian is just because of the matchup. Right? The Knicks have been solid defensively, but Harden, huge minutes, again, triple-double upside, and then Kyrie at this price point can still go for 50+. So I like both of the Brooklyn guards. I don't think either are optimal plays on the slate, but still viable for sure. DeAndre Jordan at 5'3", kind of just a fair play. Should play mid-20s minutes. I will mention Nick Claxton at 3.6K. Has been playing consistent minutes off the bench. 16, 18, 18. He's a decent point per minute guy. I think he's a viable punt play there. All right, let's move on to the Spurs and the Pistons. Before I get into this one, though, if you guys could hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, it does help me out a ton. We are over 200 viewers, 34 likes, guys. Let's try to reach 100 before the end of the show. So let's talk about San Antonio and Detroit. So I hinted you're going to want some exposure to this game. No DeRozan, obviously no Aldridge. So DeJounte Murray at the top at 7-7. I think flies under the radar here. Back-to-back games of blowouts. I don't think he's an optimal play in the slate, but hey, this is a good matchup, and he should play 35 minutes. He should be the number one in the offense. And I think a lot of people are kind of looking to White, looking to Keldon Johnson, which I think maybe for a cash game setting is correct. But I still like DeJounte Murray at the top. Now hinted, again, Derek White, Keldon Johnson, I think both these guys will be pretty popular. Derek White had a big game in a blowout. Did have 4 blocks, 2 steals. We're not going to get that again. But again, with no DeRozan, that's just so much usage to go around. And it's going to be Derek White and Keldon Johnson. We have to do a lot more. My issue with Keldon Johnson is just he's not been playing well recently. And there's just no guarantee of minutes. Like, if you told me Keldon Johnson played 22 minutes tonight, I would still not be surprised. So a little bit of a risk here, but things go right? Things go right for White. If things go right for Keldon Johnson and they get 30-plus minutes, then they have a lot of upside. So, like, I do like both of them for upside, but there's still no guarantee because it's Popovich. He could just give, Rudy Gay those minutes. He could throw Lonnie Walker some minutes. He could get Trey Lyles in the rotation, right? So never guarantee with Popovich, which always makes me feel a little bit uneasy. And then that's probably it for me. Not a ton of interest in Patty Mills or Lonnie Walker at their respective prices. I'm moving on to Detroit. So Jeremy Grant at the top is the guy that's getting the most consistent minutes for the Detroit Pistons. Should play mid-30s minutes. Is their number one on offense, but again, a little bit more up and down if you look at the box scores. 40, 32, 49, 29. There's games where he will do a lot of the peripherals and games where he'll kind of take a back seat in that department. So I would say he's more of a contrarian option at the price point. Mason Plumlee, not playing huge minutes of recently, should play 25 to 30. Is a good point per minute guy, but there seem pretty comfortable giving Isaiah Stewart more runs, so just makes him a fair option. DeLon Wright at 5'6", I think is viable here. Did play over 30 minutes the last game, which I wanted to see, so if he continues to play over 30 minutes, I think he's a pretty decent play there in the mid-range. Don't mind Josh Jackson. Again, Detroit could be pretty thin with Wayne Ellington doubtful. I think he's viable if you want to stack this game up. Probably not getting to Sadiq Bey, and then 2 value guys I'll mention here, that being Isaiah Stewart at 4.1, and he's been playing the backup 5, should play about 20-ish minutes. Viable, would have wished he's a little bit cheaper, but not completely out of play. Again, no Svi, Wayne Ellington doubtful, no Dennis Smith Jr. So Rodney McGruder at 3.4K. I know we're not going to feel amazing about it, but hey, I think he's one of the better value plays of the slate if he does play 25 plus minutes. I think he'll have to, just because Detroit really doesn't have a ton of other options. So I do like Rodney McGruder a lot there for value. All right, let's move on to the Clippers and the Mavs. So the Clippers side, it's Kawhi, it's Paul George at the top. I think both will go overlooked. Kawhi was on pace for a pretty big game last game. Had 37 fancy points through 3 quarters. Did not play the fourth. That was very tilting for myself because I had a low on Kawhi Leonard there. But yeah, I think he will fly under the radar. Does have upside. Paul George viable as well. Both will be low on in the slate. The big news really had to keep an eye on though is Serge Ibaka is currently questionable. If he does miss, I think that makes Ivica Zubac a pretty good value play at 4.6K. Should start. Probably plays mid-20s minutes if he does start. So keep an eye on that one. If there's no Ibaka, I do like Zubac. Reggie Jackson started last game, probably plays about 30 minutes of the point guard position. I think is a fair play. Terrence Mann should play the backup point guard role. Did get a little extra run because of the blowout, though, so don't expect. I think Terrence Mann played over 20 minutes last game. I wouldn't expect that at 27. Maybe expect around 20, which makes him a viable punt play to get different in tournaments. Let's talk about Dallas. Luka Doncic, again, hinted. There's just a lot of stars in the slate. I don't think he's the first guy into my lineup if you're building a cash game lineup, but I definitely think he's like a top 3 or 4 star just because of his ability to stuff the stat sheet, his ability to have huge upside games. He has a pretty high floor because of the triple-double upside, plus the minutes are very secure for him. So do like Luka at the top. Porzingis, more of a contrarian option at this price. And then the value for Dallas, no thank you on this slate. I just don't think we have to go there. Memphis and Phoenix, honestly, not a ton I like in the Memphis side. JV, not out of play, but more contrarian at their respective prices. Brooks, Clark, Anderson, There's no Justice Winslow, but that doesn't do a ton. Maybe a couple extra minutes for Alex Slomo, maybe a few extra minutes for Clark or Brooks, but nothing really stands out. And again, they're pretty healthy, right? They have Jones, Bain, Melton. Grayson Allen maybe cracks the rotation this game. I'm not going to go to any of the value guys from Memphis. On the Phoenix side, not a ton I like either. Pretty healthy here. Booker, Paul, Ayton, all secondary plays. Ayton is losing minutes recently too. 22, 23, 29 minutes the last 3 games. 2 of those games were close. Where Dario Saric has actually closed some of those games, 26, 24, 26 in 3 of the last 4 games. So if you want to use Saric for value, I get it. There's still a risk, right, because no guarantee of him closing. But if he does close and play 25-ish minutes, I think there's a really good chance he pays off that 4.2K salary there. All right, so 2 games left, guys. Let's refresh Fans Labs. Let's make sure up to date on things. So Capella questionable for tomorrow. And yeah, that's it. So All right, Pacers and the Nuggets. On the Pacers side, I think Domantas Sabonis at 9.6K will go will fly under the radar for sure. He played 43 minutes the last game. Will we get 43 minutes again? Probably not, but probably the normal 38 to 40 minutes for Sabonis. I think not an optimal play, but viable to get different. Karis LeVert at that price, I'll stay away for now. He did only play 27 minutes. I need to see him play minutes in the mid-30s if I want to pay the 7K salary for him. Now, Malcolm Brogdon at 7.4, I actually think is a decent play because he's a guy that is going to be, play about 35 minutes, a guy that, can stuff the stat sheet. I think is a pretty safe play at that price, maybe more of a cash game play. Turner against Jokic, I'm just worried about the foul trouble concerns, so I'm probably not going to go there. On the Denver side, so again, hinted at Jokic. I think he's one of the better spot ups for sure. As long as his game stays competitive, he'll play 35-plus minutes. And just a guy that has insane upside right now. Triple-double upside basically anytime he takes the court. So do like Jokic, Murray, MPJ, more contrarian options. Will Barton, I will mention, has been playing well recently. Should play 30 to 35 minutes. So yeah, in play in the mid-range. Millsap, Jermichael Green there. So there was two more bodies in the rotation. With no Gary Harris and no Monte Morris, I think Composo is a guy that you could use as a punt play if you need someone super cheap. Not a ton of upside, but did play 27 minutes the last game. I'm expecting around 20 to 25 from him. Finally, the Lakers and the Warriors. So I don't know if this game's going to be super popular, but I think LeBron James, with there being so many stars in the slate, I think will go overlooked. People will look at that most recent game and see 39 fantasy points, maybe avoid him. I will say he's been a little bit up and down. But in close games, he should play 35 plus minutes. And I think the matchup's pretty solid against Golden State. So I do like LeBron at the top. I think he will go a little bit lower owned. Mid-range guys, we have Schroeder, Harold, Kuzma, all viable actually. Golden State's a small ball team, so this is a game Harold could play 30 plus minutes. He's played 33 and 32 last couple games. We know, again, he's a good point per minute guy. Dennis Schroeder, the minutes are very secure for him. He'll play 30 to 35. Again, fair play in the mid-range. Then Kuzma had a big game last game. Went for 45 fantasy points. We'd probably get around 25 to 35, somewhere in that range for minutes. So all three of the guys in the mid-range there for the Lakers are solid plays. Does one really stand out for me? No. But I think they're all fine pieces, or maybe like a last piece in if you land on one of those guys. Markieff Morris at 4-5. No, thank you. Lost minutes last game. THT probably plays about 15 minutes. KCP will play mid-20s minutes, but super light in the scoring. And that's really it for the Lakers. So finally, the Golden State Warriors here. Steph Curry, I do think will go very low-owned. But hey, I like him every single slate in tournaments. And like I said, he's going to be low on this slate. So do like Steph for GPPs. I think Draymond Green at 6.5K. In my opinion, it's one of the best plays of the slate. I love Draymond Green. As long as he stays healthy and this game stays competitive, he should play 35 plus minutes. A guy that, recently has been a lot more aggressive in the offensive end. So let's just take a look at close games recently for Draymond. 37 minutes against the Knicks, 45 fantasy points. 36 minutes against the Pacers, 47 fantasy points. 36 minutes against the Hornets, 61 fantasy points. Lakers game, injured. Portland, 36 minutes, 40 fantasy points. Clippers game, blowout. Utah, 36 minutes, 56 fantasy points. I think Draymond Green is one of the best plays of the slate. Absolutely love him at that price. Oubre, Wiggins, no. Wiseman, viable for tournaments, but not playing huge minutes. Jordan Poole, I will mention, he actually has been getting some okay run off the bench. 26, 20, and 22 minutes the last three games. The last game against the Jazz was close too. He's a streaky shooter, so you can use him for GPPs. But I would just mention, like Steve Kerr, you just can never trust him with the bench pieces. So that is it for my team-by-team breakdown, guys. Let's refresh Fantasy Labs one more time, make sure we're up to date, and then we'll get into some questions. All right, so let's do it, guys. We got about 15 minutes here for some questions. Whiter quickly. Yeah, I would still prefer Emmanuel quickly. LeVert, 4.1K. Yeah, I think on FanDuel, that's way too cheap. I don't get that price on FanDuel, so it's like, I think that's close to a must on FanDuel. It's a way different story on DraftKings, obviously it's 7K, right? I don't have a ton of interest. 4.1, completely different story. White, quickly, Poole, Draymond. I wouldn't play Poole in cash games. I would not play Poole in cash games. Burks is sleeper too. I didn't mention Burks. He's okay. Yeah, I think he's, again, because of the matchup, he's in play. 27 minutes in back-to-back games. 12 and 18 shot attempts. I think Alec Burks is, if I had to pick one other cheap New York guy, it would be him. So, yeah, didn't mention him, but I do think he's actually a pretty solid play. Yeah, I would not play Poole in cash. What's your thoughts on Chris Paul? I just don't think we have to go there in the slate. Fade the Spurs game. Yeah, so it's like if that game stays close, you're probably gonna need at least one player from that game, right? We got, White and Keldon in the mid-range, DeJounte at the top. On the other side, Jeremy Grant at the top. A couple guys that look pretty good in the mid-range, Magruder for value. So it's like, as long as nothing weird happens and like either coach extends the bench to like 10 plus players, then you're gonna want some exposure to that game. Marcus Morris is a Mav killer guy. So I will mention that if there's no Serge Ibaka, he'll probably play the backup 5, which would make him in play for value. Yeah, again, be careful. Jordan Poole, strictly a tournament play. If he does not play well, you could see him be limited. Holmes, yeah, I think Holmes is a good play. As long as he stays out of foul trouble. He has been playing about 35 minutes, which is really good to see. LeVert or Zubac? So are you talking about FanDuel? Because FanDuel right now it's LeVert. But DraftKings, I have no interest in the Karis LeVert. 25% line. Yeah, so it's like, I think that's fine. I think that's if I was building a ton of lineups, I would do something like that because he's a guy that's a good point per minute guy. And if I just do not like seeing Alex Len on the slate because it's either he's going to crush and you're going to need him, or he's going to completely bust for you. It feels like there's no in between. So I just don't like seeing him on the slate for GPPs. So it's either one or the other, right? You play him and you just get screwed and he plays 5 minutes, or you fade him and he plays 30 minutes again and he destroys the slate. DeLon Wright quickly, Will Barton, Giannis, Len, White, Burks, Fox thoughts. It's a little bit contrarian. Again, Barton is a guy that I said he's been solid. He's not really a priority for me at his price. I do like your spend up obviously with Giannis. Using White, Len for value. Fox more contrarian. I think it's a decent lineup. Favorite sub 4K guard. Rodney Magruder at 3.4. Holmes are 8 and Holmes. And the only reason I say Holmes is the minutes, right? Holmes is playing way more minutes. Sabonis or Randall? I think it's Randall for me. I like the matchup a little bit better for Julius. Small forward at 3,400? Yeah, I don't think there's really anything there. I can take a look. Nothing I feel confident with, I should say. So, yeah, no thank you on Toscano Anderson. No thank you on Samancic. No thank you on Bazemore. No thank you on Kennard. How many minutes of Vassell? I mean, Vassell played a little bit more. Yeah, still didn't play much, even in a blowout. My advice would be I would rearrange something because there's nothing there. There's nothing there. Murray or CP3, it's Murray for me. I like Turner. I'm fine with Miles Turner as long as he stays out of foul trouble. Any love for Zeller? I think Zeller's all right. I would rather have Holmes on the opposite side, though. Any issues for single-entry GPP with Drew, Magruder, Barton, Giannis, Holmes, quickly, Draymond, and White? No, I think it's a good lineup. Anybody know the highest ownership for DraftKings? I heard that Keldon is going to be really high owned. Keldon Johnson. Derek White's going to be up there too. I mean, in a close game, the Spurs probably run an 8 or 9 man rotation. So, and those guys obviously will do a lot more offensively. No DeMar DeRozan. Terrence Mann, a good safe cash value play. I would rather have Rodney Magruder. What you doing about D'Anthony Melton? See, I don't know if Melton plays more with Winslow out. I think it's maybe more minutes for Slow-Mo, maybe a few more minutes for Brandon Clark. So I'm probably not going to go there. Thoughts on Kennard? No thanks. Holmes or Draymond? If you made me pick, it's Draymond. But I like both those guys in the mid-range. Sarge or Claxton or Len? Upside-wise is Len if things go right. But he's also probably the riskiest of the bunch. I think the safest is actually Sarge. What about DiVincenzo for cash? No thanks. Zeller, I don't hate Zeller at that price point, but not a priority. There's a lot of good center plays. 3,500 utility, it's Magruder. Highest owned for DK is quickly at 30%, then Giannis and Derek White following him. Okay. Kind of what I figured. I know those Spurs guys are projected to be pretty popular, that being DeLon Wright and, Derek White and Keldon Johnson. DeLon Morris or Magruder, 6,100 small forward. DeLon and Morris or Magruder, probably the Magruder option. If Ibaka is out, do you prefer Zubac over Draymond? I mean, they're different prices. I'm prioritizing Draymond Green in this slate. Quickly going to start. Not sure. He started the second half last game. I do like him a lot, though. Even if he doesn't start, I still think he's a good play. Do you like Trez today? I think Trez is a good tournament play. Yeah. I'm guessing he gets over 30 minutes on this slate. Thoughts on Steph? Also like him for tournaments. With all the good spend ups in the slate, right? I think more optimal plays, cash game plays, spend ups, probably Giannis, Jokic, maybe like Harden or Luka. That's probably where you're looking to spend up. And then those value plays, which I mentioned, that's for like a cash game build. For tournaments, though, hey, I do like Steph. I do. Thoughts on Josh Richardson? No, thank you. Barrett or Harrell? I would rather take the shot in Harrell. DeLon Wright, quickly, Morris, Portis, Zubac, Kyrie, Randall, Dre, tournament slots. It's definitely contrarian. Kyrie's going to fly under the radar. I mean, honestly, besides like Giannis, Jokic, maybe Luka, all the other spend ups at the top are going to be low owned. I see nothing wrong with that. Again, Morris, Zubac, I think are only viable though if Ibaka's out. If Ibaka's in, I wouldn't get to either of them. Keldon's 17%. Okay. Yeah, so both, Derek White going to be a little bit more popular than Keldon just because I think that most recent game. Portis or Sarge for GPP. I mean, I think the upside is higher in Bobby Portis, but he's also riskier. Is DeJounte Murray hurt or something? No, I think he's fine. It's just been blowouts. Back-to-back games of blowouts, right? So if we go to the Spurs, he's played limited minutes. 30 and 23, 104 to 77, 134 to 99. So, back-to-back blowout games. I think, again, at this price point, it's still contrarian. I think White, Keldon, more optimal plays. Giannis, Jokic, Green, pick 2 for cash. Giannis and Jokic, if you can get to both of them, price doesn't matter. But I love Draymond Green. Quickly, Schroeder, Burks, Green, Jokic, Wright, Gibson, Murray for cash. I think that's more of a tournament lineup. I do. I don't think you play that being... I'm guessing that's DeJounte Murray. I don't think you play him in cash. I think you do play Giannis in cash games. I think fading him in cash is a mistake. So a couple issues I have with that for cash games. Ball or Fox? Fox because of the minutes. I'm more confident with the minutes. Portis at 4K? Yeah, I think that's viable. Again, like, minutes never guaranteed from him, so always a risk. Montrez for cash? I think you can do it. Like, they have, like, no one else. Like, Damian Jones will play a little bit to start. He'll play the Marcus Gasol role, but, like, I guess they could... My only concern with Montrez is just we've seen a couple games where he's been limited. That one game against Phoenix 2 or 3 games ago, they actually closed with Markieff Morris, small ball. Now, Golden State is a small ball team, so, like, maybe he does... Like, maybe there's a chance he gets limited. So that's just the one concern. I would say fringe viable just because... there's still no guarantee. Like, I'm guessing it's over 30, but it's not a lock. White or Keldon? I think White, if you made me pick, and he will be more popular of the two too. Is it just me that's high on Brook Lopez tonight? Yeah, I'm not really looking to Brook Lopez. What's his price at? He's at 4.7. Or no, that's bot. Wait, I collected him by Portis. Brolo's at 4.8. Not super interested. Holiday, Grant, Giannis, Green, Magruder, Barton, Stewart. It's a bit contrarian for sure. What about Wiggins? No. I don't know what his price is on FanDuel, but I don't play Andrew Wiggins. I played him once before the All-Star break, and he did nothing with everyone out. Can I use LeBron instead of Giannis? For GPPs, yes. For cash games, I don't see how you get away from Giannis Antetokounmpo. Quickly, Magruder, Keldon Johnson, Draymond, Jokic, Hardaway Jr., Randall, and Isaiah Stewart. So Hardaway's not really a guy I'm looking to. Everything else I think is decent. Isaiah Stewart, a little pricey, I will say. So maybe you move off Hardaway, move off Isaiah Stewart, maybe get on to a couple other guys. Thoughts on Kuzma at 6K? I think all three of the Lakers mid-range guys look pretty decent with Schroeder, Kuzma, Harrell. Does one stand out more than the other? Not really. I think they're all secondary options, kind of filler plays. None of those guys are priorities. But if it's the last piece in, I think it's completely fine. Holiday, Grant, okay, I already answered that. Do you like Kyrie tonight? I think he's a good tournament play. He's going to be low owned for sure. There's a lot of the guys at the top going to eat up a good amount of ownership. Kyrie at 9.3 is not going to be popular, but it's Kyrie Irving. Even though it's not necessarily the best matchup, I think he's in play because the upside is there with him. Yeah, Holiday or Schroeder is a good question. I think I might lean towards Drew Holiday, actually. Wiseman for value on FanDuel. If he's cheaper on FanDuel, then yeah, that's fine. Good value picks. Kind of already talked about it, right? We got the Spurs-Pistons game, some value there. I got a guy like Alex Len, who's a little riskier. So, yeah, that's kind of where I'm looking for value. TLC is back. Any thoughts? Not for me. Right, quickly, Burks, Giannis, Zubac, Magruder, Draymond, and PG. I think it's a good lineup. Again, Paul George will fly under the radar. You're playing a decent amount of the chalk and kind of getting different in a couple of ways, which I like for that's like my favorite tournament build is to do that. Giannis, okay, I already answered that. Rudy Gay, last piece. I think I'd rather have Keldon or Derek White for a little bit cheaper. 5,100 for small forward. Let's see. Yeah, it's Keldon. It's Keldon for me. Again, I laid out my concerns, though, with Keldon Johnson is there's still a chance, even with them being thin, that he plays like 22 minutes tonight. I will say that if things go right for him, there's a good chance he can have one of those upside games like we saw a lot from him early in the year. Can you play Portis and Giannis together? Yeah, it's a great matchup. Again, Giannis is obviously a clear cash play. Portis is not a cash game play. His minutes fluctuate, but I like him for GPPs. Fox, Holiday, Harden, LeVert, Randall, Green, Len, Fandle. Okay, yeah. Again, I think you playing LeVert therefore on Fandle is the way to go for sure. Holiday, Grant, Giannis, Green, Magruder, Barton, Stewart. Okay, I already went over that. Sarge or Stewart. For me, it's Sarge. Murray, quickly, Keldon, Green, Holmes, Holiday, Portis, and Valanciunas. Okay, I like that. Again, JV's a guy. If I had to pick someone on Memphis, it would be Jonas Valanciunas. Portis or Sarge for GPP. Again, Portis. Cash game value, I think you got Magruder. I think you got the Spurs guys. Can you roster Giannis and Drew without a Washington run back? Yeah. Because, Westbrook and Beal are expensive enough that, they could still go for 50 each, and you're not going to need either of them. And there's so many good stars in the slate that, yeah, on this slate, I don't think you need to bring back. Len or Stewart, upside-wise is Len for me. He's I would say, a lot riskier. I think Stewart is safer because he's got a more defined role, playing off the bench, playing about 20 minutes. Len will either play 30 minutes and crush, or play 5 minutes and get benched, and you were tilt the night early. Bullock for 3.5K for value. Didn't really mention Reggie Bullock. Honestly, I do not like playing Reggie Bullock. I think he's been getting some minutes for probably gets 30-ish minutes. Yeah, he's playable. I think I'd rather, if I'm going to play one of the Knicks value guys, obviously, quickly, I don't really consider value. I love quickly. It would be Alec Burks. I feel a lot more comfortable with Alec Burks than I do a guy like Reggie Bullock. So, at Bullock, even at that price, I don't think I'm going to do it. Fox or Kawhi? Fox for me. What contest do you normally enter on DK? Single entry tournaments. Single entry tournaments for me. Terrence Mann, I think there's better value plays. Better for cash games. Yeah. I think Terrence Mann's still viable for tournaments, but yeah, better cash game plays there. Best play under 3,300. I think it's probably Taj. I don't know if there's a lot of other guys that are even viable down here. So let's see, 3,300. Scrolling down a bit. Let's just see if there's anyone else. Robin Lopez normally plays the most consistent minutes for the Washington Center, but he only played 15 the last game. So maybe you take a shot in him and hope the minutes are there. Hope Alex Len struggles. But I guess it's probably Taj. Now, he's played a little bit more because of blowouts. I'm guessing we only get around 20 in a close game. Not a great, fantastic point per guy, but he's at 3-1, so it's probably him. Brogdon for cash games. Yeah, I think Brogdon's a guy that is fine for cash. He'll play about 35 minutes. So, yeah, I think he's a pretty solid play. Zubac a must. I wouldn't say a must play, but I think he'd definitely be one of the better plays for sure. Keldon, Magruder, or Zubac Morris if Ibaka is out. Whew. I don't like that either or because I think I want to get to Magruder plus one of those Spurs, one of either Keldon or White for an optimal build, and then probably try to get Zubac in an optimal build too. So it's I don't really like choosing between those two options. I guess it'd be the second one, but yeah, I would think about getting more exposure there to get Magruder, get to one of Keldon or Derek White, as well as probably looking to maybe a guy like Zubac if there's no Ibaka. Thoughts about using the studs of the game between the Mavs and the Clippers in one lineup? It's gonna be contrarian, right? So if you use Luka I think will still get some ownership, but if you use Luka and Kawhi or Luka and Paul George, yeah, you're gonna have a different lineup. And I do think those Clipper stars are a little bit underpriced. They're going to fly under the radar. Blowout last game, so don't read too much into in their production, that last one. Luka, quickly, Poole. Yeah, so again, I wouldn't play Jordan Poole in cash games. Quickly, everything else is fine. Quickly, Magruder, Burks, Green, Giannis, White, Randall, Len. Yeah, I think that's a good build. Robin Lopez, again, he did only play, 15 minutes the last game. Normally, he plays the most consistent minutes of those centers for the Wizards, but there's no guarantee. If I'm going to take a shot in one of the cheap centers, I think it would just be Len, because he's way better of a point per minute guy, and you just hope the minutes are there, right? If you're playing Len, he's got to hope he actually gets the minutes. Do you think you need Giannis for cash games? Yeah. For GPPs, no. For GPPs, you can definitely fade Giannis. You think seeing stars and top shall go back on price, or they have hit a max? Depends. Whenever, I know they haven't let new users in a while, so maybe when they do let those users in, prices might go up a little bit. Barton or Porter? Barton. DK Core on Patreon, which we'll go over in about a few minutes if you're interested in signing up. That's all. Yeah, that's all included in Patreon content. Player pool, core plays, and then I'll talk exactly where I'm going for the slate as well. Utility under 5K. Yeah, I know I already said I don't love it, but it's going to be probably Keldon Johnson. Where he's at 5K. It's probably him. Again, I laid out my concerns, though. There is still no guarantee of his minutes. And he's not been playing well recently, but you got to expect he's going to do more with no DeMar DeRozan. LeBron going overlooked? I think he is. I kind of like that game to stack. LeBron, Steph, Draymond, value. I kind of like that for tournaments. It's going to be contrarian. Thoughts on Quickly, Magruder, Bullock, Draymond, Giannis, Holiday, Randall, Claxton. Okay, that's good with me. Quickly or DeLon Wright? Yeah, definitely Quickly for me. Eubanks, 3K. So he's played more because of the blowout. In a regular game, he probably only plays 10 to 15 minutes. You can use him as a punt play and hope that he gets run, but it's Popovich, and I don't really trust it. So, all right, guys, one more minute here, then I do it to get out of here. Yeah, Derek White or DeLon Wright's a good question. I think it's probably Derek White for me. Fox and Kuzma or DeJounte and Hayward? I think it's Fox and Kuzma. 7,600 less for utility. Jonas Valanciunas for tournaments. Malcolm Brogdon for cash games. All right, guys, last question here. Plumlee or Pirtle? That's a good one. I think both are going to play similar minutes, and Plumlee's the better point per minute guy, so give me Mason Plumlee there. I think both play around 30-ish minutes. Maybe Pirtle probably was upside for a little bit more minutes, but Plumlee's just, again, the better point per minute guy. So I don't love Plumlee at this price, but if you're going to make me pick between those two, it's going to be Mason Plumlee. And that's going to do it for the live stream today, guys, for YouTube. So good luck to everyone tonight. I hope you guys have a great rest of your Monday. Keep an eye on that news, and I'll see you all back here for another live stream